Welcome everybody. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. My name's Aaron. Got a little different lineup for you today, or now I should say. Got a new co-host. His name is BK.
Hello.
We've got some new things lined up for you. We took a little time off to get some things straight, work out a little kinks here and there, but we're steadily working it out and getting things going. We're going to start off back with talking about 3D films, what they are today, where they've been, how they've progressed. You know, because a lot of people don't know about 3D. They're just like, oh, some people even think 3D is only a new technology within the past 10 years, which it's not. It's been around for quite a while.
It's been around for a very long time, yes.
The actual 3D experience, you can call it, I guess, has been around since 1915, but didn't really get into the cinema and the film area until like the 1950s, which it was huge. Like take Back to the Future.
Yes.
A lot of people didn't know why he was when he went back into his mom's times. I want to say that was like the 60s, 50s era.
It was 1955.
Yes, that's right. I can't remember. I can't believe I should be.
From 1985 to 1955.
I can't even believe I messed that part up. God. But yeah.
It's hot. It's understandable.
And
it's okay.
Some people, even me at first, for a while, I was like, why is he wearing 3D glasses? I didn't even know, you know? But back then, I think in the movie they were red and blue, but back then they're actually red and green.
Right. The red and blue came about in the 60s and into the 70s. I remember actually, and this kind of dates me, but in the 70s when I was a kid, one of the local TV stations would run on Saturday afternoon old 3D movies. Creature from the Black Lagoon, old classics like that. And all you had to do was go down to your local neighborhood 7-Eleven who sponsored it and ask them for the 3D glasses, and they would give them to you for nothing on Saturday afternoon.
Times have changed.
I know, right? and we would, I remember me and all my buddies, we'd get together at someone's house, and we'd get in front of the TV, and we'd have our blue and red 3D glasses, and we'd watch the movie and they ran one for like, weeks. It was like probably 2 months during the summer. And once they ran out of glasses, then you couldn't get any more and you couldn't watch it if you lost yours or broke yours or tore them up or whatever. But I remember that very clear. I mean, it was really cool seeing those. And the big gimmick of those, and when 3D kind of got its revival again shortly after that in the theaters in the 80s, was things would come out of the screen at you.
Right, it was kind of like a pop-out thing.
Right, and that's why it was mostly horror films that employed the 3D stuff.
Like Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3D, saw it in the theater. Friday the 13th 3D, saw it in the theater. Oh man,
you know,
those were the Jaws 3D. I enjoyed that. I saw that in Hot Springs, Arkansas, on vacation with my family, and I had the Jaws. And now those weren't colored glasses; those were the modern tinted, but they were paper still, and it actually had Jaws right up on the temple between the eyes. So I actually got real cool Jaws 3D, and I have them somewhere. I don't know where. Those were awesome. Friday the 13th. They just handed out regular glasses, and I felt ripped off when I walked out of there because it was the exact same story and plot as the first Friday the 13th movie. Every murder was the same. It was the same basic plot, story, killing, everything. The only good thing about that film is, and it's probably not known by a lot of people other than people who love that particular series, the 3D film is the one where Jason got his mask.
Yeah.
That's the one.
It was in 3 because 2 he had his little burlap
2
sack.
he was in a sack, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he had that because one of the kids had one, and then he got it in that film, and it stuck. And he's always had it ever since.
Now going back to the Future, the guy wearing the 3D glasses, the funny thing about that is because the big song out of that soundtrack was Huey Lewis and News' Power of Love, right?
Right.
Okay, well, the very earliest confirmed film, 3D shown, of the Outhouse audience was called The Power of Love.
That's cool.
You know, I can't say anything about it because I don't know anything about it. I just thought that was a fun little cool thing to know because I didn't know about that and how it kind of. I don't know if like it was a thing Robert Zemeckis and all them did on purpose.
I think it was a coincidence because I watched a documentary not long ago, what with the actual date, when it came up. There was a documentary popped up on Netflix about Out of Time, the story of Back to the Future, and they went to Huey Lewis because they wanted him to do a song, and he said, "How about this Power of Love thing?" And okay, and it just, I don't know if he didn't mention that there was any tie-in with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a song that he had was kind of kicking around, and
right. I remember reading or not reading, hearing about that too. But when it comes to Robert Zemeckis and anything about those films, I don't believe anything because when he was like, "Oh yeah, hoverboards are real," like did like an actual interview. They even put it when they first came out on DVD.
Right.
They even put that interview out there. It was a real interview he did on TV. Made everybody think there were really hoverboards out there.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that movie trilogy, I don't believe really anything he says.
Mm-mm.
But it was still a great idea and a great way to pop that up and like pique everybody's interest. Like, oh, well, I gotta see this now.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't.
And it's still worth seeing. If you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing.
It'd be better in 3D.
Absolutely.
Part 2 would be the best in 3D.
Oh, it would. It really would.
I mean, the way they go through the towers. My favorite part of 3D is like those pop-out things where it actually looks like it's coming out at you.
I like those, but they become kind of gimmicky after a little bit because you can kind of see them coming.
Well, Steve,
the thing I like about the 3D, the modern 3D especially, is the depth of the picture.
Yeah, it looks like you can just walk up onto out there.
You're not looking at a flat screen anymore. Now you're looking at a screen that just goes on forever.
Like you can tell, okay, they're about 50 feet away from the building.
You can actually get a feel for depth and distance now.
Right.
Whereas before, it was all camera tricks and angles, and they could be standing right beside something, but they could do a camera angle and make it look really far away. With this 3D technology, they can't do that, but we get a much better feel for that because the setting just feels so deep. And there's so much depth, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I'm like with Captain America, the Civil War.
Yes,
I saw that in the IMAX 3D.
Yes,
and there was parts about it that I liked. Like when I was talking about how I like when they come out at you, like you don't do it all the time. Like there's parts like when he was chasing Bucky and Bucky got in the helicopter and he pulled him and the chopper crashed, and part of the chopper came out at you.
The chopper comes flying at you, and you're dodging debris. And then you're involved, and you're in that film.
That has been the first movie since Journey to the Center of Earth. I kind of like dodged because I thought a piece of the plane was coming at me, or a helicopter was coming at me. I was like, shit. And I saw Batman, Superman 3D, but I was kind of at a weird angle with that. See, that's another bad thing about angles, especially in a movie theater. If you're up close and kind of at an angle, you'll see like a double image every now and then.
Right.
And that got on my nerves with the Batman versus Superman because where we were at. I mean, it wasn't like that all the time, but you can catch a glimpse every now and then.
Yeah.
And those are the bad things about 3D. Sometimes the angles are bad. Like when they first came out with 3D TVs with the technology nowadays.
Right.
Well, not nowadays, but when this was brand new technology
10 years
for TVs.
Ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago. They had the glasses had to be battery operated and charged and plugged in, because they were shutters like cameras.
Right. And it was connected to something you connected to the TV.
And you had to be straight in front of it.
Right.
If you weren't like directly in front of it, it would be done over with. The whole experience is ruined. And I would never get a 3D TV for that. And then later on, they started getting the glasses like they had in the theaters, and I'm like, they're starting to look a little more not like a game controller.
Right.
And so that's when I started wanting a 3D TV.
And maybe I'll have one because my TV has an attachment where I can put something on it and it will do the projection
Right.
like with the old time 3D. My TV's getting a little old, but that I mean I'm ready to get rid of my 65 inches of glory. You know, I have my theater in the living room. I think that there's an easy fix with the 3D because I think there's a setting that I can just update something in it and I'm good to go.
See, now my TV is a 3D TV I bought like 2.5 years ago, and I can actually use the glasses from the Real D glasses from the theaters,
awesome.
bring them home, and use them. So I've got like a whole bunch. Like at first when I bought it, I only had four, and now I'm
Right.
like, we watching 3D TV, and we got a bunch of people here. Everybody's got glasses, and you don't have to be right in front
Yeah.
of it now. And, like
Right.
I'll go to the side and be in the kitchen on the side, and I can still see it in 3D just
That's
as
awesome.
good. And that's awesome. Now, my first experience with 3D was actually a comic book.
Oh yeah.
I got the comic book, and I had to get the ones where you held them up and read it. And then my
Yes.
first movie experience 3D, I didn't actually see it, but I heard about it. It was when Disney pretty much came out with the IMAX 3D Terminator
Oh yeah.
back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. They started doing stuff out in their theme parks,
Yes.
with experimental 3D types and 4D types with the 3D glasses that are pretty much what we have now. But it took them, I don't know what happened and why it took them to get to what it is now, what they already had. Because they already had the glasses like we already had.
Right.
Terminator one, I think, was the Shutter ones.
It could be.
And that was first like IMAX, the very first IMAX. And Walt Disney, before they put it in their parks, they just put it in the Expo in '86 in Vancouver to let everybody know what was going on. And a lot of people know that James Cameron did the Avatar, and
Yes.
he made this special he didn't invent, he helped invent the special 3D technology for that one, which in my opinion, I couldn't really tell any difference.
The only thing I liked about that movie was the 3D and the depth of the picture. I actually felt like I was on a foreign world because I could see the depth. Felt like that tree was 100 miles over there while we're flying in his chopper or whatever.
It was awesome in 3D. Yeah, 3D. I saw it. I saw it in 3D, but I didn't see it till it was the second version, the extended version in theaters.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the extended version.
So my girlfriend's like, "You've got to get Avatar in 3D." I'm like, "Sure, find the extended version."
Right.
Because I don't want to see the smaller version. I want the whole movie.
Right.
The whole movie was good.
I wasn't impressed with the film because to me the whole story was, I know it's kind of a tree hugger kind of film, and if you can't just take things from the planet, you gotta be more than that. Okay, so I have to give up my humanity to save a tree. Well, it's basically what they said to the guy, right? I mean, he was
pretty much, because it was their tree of life.
right, and he was a human, but he had to not be a human if he was going to save everything. So to save the world, we have to not be human.
Yeah, but
Well, I just told
also
down that whole film for people.
a sci-fi movie, but it's, to me, the only reason why I even watched it is because James Cameron did it.
I was interested in the film because I thought there was an interesting premise there with the whole Avatar thing,
Right.
to be able to go out into a foreign world and blend in with the locals. Wow.
And being able to
That was-
walk again,
yeah.
that was great.
And that was really cool. Because he lucked into that because he had a brother that died, and he wasn't the original choice.
right.
But it happened to fit his DNA, so they took him so they didn't lose all the money that it's all about money.
Oh, especially with the government.
Yeah, and the unobtainium. I'm interested to see what happens in Avatar 2.
And 3 and 4
Right.
already.
Well,
but they've been saying that for years. So,
but 2 is now scheduled. It has a release date.
well, that's good to know. Finally, my first experience with 3D though, I guess you can say with modern 3D, was back when they re-released Nightmare Before Christmas in 3D
Oh, wow.
in the theaters for the very first time. I went and saw it because I love that movie.
That's a great
I'm
film.
a huge Tim Burton fan. And I watch it, I come out, I'm like, that was disappointing. I pretty much paid to watch Nightmare in Theater, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Nightmare Before Christmas.
To wear these glasses.
Right. And because to me, it didn't even, there was times where it felt like it was regular, and then later on, it felt like I could just walk onto it, but then it went away.
They put in a couple of shots, and that was it.
It's like they only did a couple of scenes in 3D, and I didn't even want to see 3D after that. And when I got drugged to Journey to the Center of Earth, because it was a whole family deal, my mom went, my dad went, my nephew went, my son went, and my son wanted me to go, and I was like, all right, I'll go. And it was funny because seeing my mom react during the time where the tape measure came out, the best part was when they were going down the sea and the fish were jumping. Right. She was dodging left and right, going, ah!
That's awesome.
And I like the way they got the way modern 3D is, because you can tell more of, it puts you more into the movie than the old 3D, because the old 3D just made the movie like it was out there.
Right.
You know, it didn't have, but of course, again, that's also time, technology advancing. Right. Like you can put the zoom, like when you go in, or you got Superman flying, you can put the like zoom features in to make it look like that.
It's filmed with a different camera in 3D that will translate down to regular, but you can't translate regular into 3D.
Right.
So if it's not filmed in 3D, you'll never be able to make it 3D.
Now, well, no, that's not true nowadays, because nowadays they've got technology to where you can put movies together, even old movies, and convert them into 3D now. But
that's very recent, because there's been a lot of films that they tried to re-release as 3D, and
it hasn't looked that great.
And the main ones in my mind, being that I'm a huge fan of the genre, and you know, when they re-released the Star Wars prequels 1, 2, and 3 in 3D, and everyone's like, "Did those actually go to the theater?" Yeah, they did. No one knows about it. No one remembers it.
I knew about Phantom Menace coming back out in 3D. I remember that one coming back out. I was like, no, I don't want to see that one in 3D. I wanted to see the second and the third one, but I don't ever remember
them all
coming out in 3D.
They were out for like a week each, and that's it. Because you couldn't translate them into 3D because they weren't filmed in 3D.
Top Gun, on the other hand, is excellent in 3D.
Oh, I bet that would be fabulous.
Oh, it was converted great, and I even own it in 3D. My son's first time seeing it was in 3D.
Wow.
So he got to experience all that dog fighting in 3D, and it was for his first time. So that was great.
I'm looking forward to that sequel too.
I'm not sure. I think they should leave it alone.
Well, I think they should too, but they're not going to.
Of course, they're never going to.
Especially if they think they're going to make a buck. And the fact that they have Tom Cruise coming back as the instructor at Top Gun. He's going to get to step into basically...
what's his name's role? Not Maverick.
Viper.
Yeah, Viper's role.
Tom...
now, if they do it like that and have it kind of like how he's just a little person in this movie...
It will probably feel like a remake.
I'd much rather feel more like a remake with him as the instructor, even using the name Maverick and all that.
Right.
But just have him with just that little part as the instructor.
I saw a thing on Facebook this past week at work, and it was a rest in peace memoriam. Has been 20 years since we lost Goose. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's been 21 years. I got to thinking about it. That was like 85, wasn't it?
I want to say that.
85 or 86. It may have been 86. I think it was 86. It's 20 years.
Either way.
Wow, that's crazy.
I can't remember it being that long. But the way it's kind of like when 3D came back, it came back big and hard, and now it feels like it's taking a dive again, because you get these movies that are 3D, but then you get movies that aren't 3D that should be 3D that look like they were filmed for 3D.
Yeah.
And what most people don't know is, going back to the converting and all that, there are special cameras that are filmed like, I want to say it's like an inch and a quarter space between the lenses to give it that 3D look.
Right.
It's got to have two different angles at the same height, same length in and out, just to give it that effect. You know, I'm not no director or anything, so I don't know exactly how it all goes down, but I know it's special rigs that they've got put together that are filmed, some film using the whole 3D thing and then convert it to 2D,
Right.
which is most like what Days of Future Past and all the new ones are doing nowadays.
Right.
They're filming in 3D, converting to 2D, which is pretty much putting both pictures on top of each other.
Right. Which is a much easier process.
I would expect that would be so. And
It's always easier to crush a can than it is to open one back up.
and make it look great.
Right.
You know, because once one thing's done, you gotta have, it's pretty much kind of like lining of special lineup.
Right.
That if you don't do it right enough, it's gonna kill the whole thing.
Yes.
And I have seen some 3D movies that have been terrible
Oh,
because it looked like, and I'm not talking about not sitting at a right angle, it's just, it doesn't look like it was filmed right for 3D.
right. There's been some 3D movies that I've sat through going, why am I watching this in 3D? Why did I pay the extra?
Yes.
And
There's some like that I've seen, like Deadpool. Deadpool would have been awesome in 3D.
oh, it would have been fabulous, yes.
It would have been outstanding in 3D. I would have loved it in 3D.
That would have been at least 8 more good gag jokes, too.
Oh yeah, at least. And Brick Mansions, Paul Walker's last full movie.
Yes.
The way some of that was filmed, that was done like, it would have been crazy to see in 3D. You know, it would have been like a Captain America in 3D movie, because some of the way some of the things were shot and it came
Right.
at the camera. I watched that with my son. I'm like, why is this not in 3D? This would be badass
Right.
in 3D.
Do you think they'll do 3D for the next Boondock Saints?
I hope not.
I kind of
I
hope they'll
love
leave
3D, but I also love the Boondock Saints.
it.
and I
would
don't
like
wanna
them
take
to
that
see
chance.
it. Right. I'd like to see it leave well enough alone. Whereas you could probably have some things that would probably look good and everything, but you know, is it worth one or two shots to do a whole film?
Exactly.
I don't think so.
To me,
The most
it's not.
recent Star Wars film, The Force Awakens, was in 3D. I saw it in
loved
3D
I loved it in 3D.
I
I was
loved it
glad
in
because I
3D.
finally got to see a Star Wars in 3D.
because that was really phenomenal.
The way it looked when they were doing the TIE fighter escape, going under that ship,
it was fabulous.
it was amazing. That's what
And
3D
it
is
made
supposed to be
me
like.
want to see the others that way. But I'm content to leave well enough alone. They've been tampered with way too much as it is. Let's just press forward.
Now, how do you feel about 3D movies?
You know, originally, if you saw a 3D movie, you knew it was going to be a horror film. Something was going to jump at you. It was made for jump scares originally. And it worked well with jump scares. And even in some of the horror films, when they were trying to revive it, and I'm thinking in particular of Friday the 13th, Part 3. There was one scene in particular, the big jump scare, because most of the film was not 3D. But the one scene, Jason's got a guy's head and he's squeezing it and crushing it, and an eye shoots right into your face off the screen. That was phenomenal. And it was the biggest jump scare. But other than that, in that movie, there were 2 other big scenes. Like it was a cut shot from this scene to something else. I'm sorry, there were 3 others. There was one other jump scare where early in the film, an old man in a store was opening up something and like a rattlesnake jumped out at him. That
Right.
got a lot of screams too. But nothing beat that eyeball. Nothing. There was a scene where a kid's playing baseball and it's like dark scene and then daytime and there's a bat sticking in your face where he's at bat. And that was fun.
Right.
There was a scene, I think it might have been that old guy at the beginning too, where he was watching TV. Back in the day when we had antennas, and he had his rabbit ears on top of the TV, and one was poking you right in the eye and then he moved it out of the way, and it made it feel real. It made it feel like you were there, and I thought those were cool. Wow, that's not a jump scare. That's just kind of cool. People are ducking and dodging, trying to get out of the way of that. That was kind of fun, and it kind of brought you back into the film after a snake tried to bite you in the face,
Right.
but those kind of things, and those were the part of things which kind of started the revival for 3D. And those scenes, I think, are partly responsible for, well, why don't we make it feel like a more real atmosphere instead of it's a flat screen and something's going to jump at you? Because not every film would have that. And with that thought process, I think that allowed directors to add 3D to things like Avatar, not a horror film. You have a depth in this alien world and things like that. And I thought it probably brought 3D to films that would not have had it otherwise.
Now, do you think 3D is the film industry is kind of slowly, once again, stepping away from the 3D elements?
I think that,
Or is it like a half and half? Some studios want to stay with it, and some don't really want to touch it.
I think that what you have is two schools of thought. You have, we are making a huge blockbuster, and it's going to draw a lot of people. Some people like 3D, some people don't. We're going to release it in both.
Right.
And if we release it in 3D, we're going to get a little bit more money.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think that. The other thing that I think is a lot of art filmmakers, like Kurosawa was still alive and making films.
Right.
I think he wouldn't touch 3D because he would use the same things that he used all along, making this very big and grand. And you felt like it was big and grand from how he shot it.
Right.
And I think that you have that school of thought in Hollywood and not Hollywood, making independent films and lower budget films and stuff like that. They don't need the 3D. It's the story that drives the film, not the effect of the 3D. Some people think that that takes away from the story. And in some cases, that's true.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, a person who is a filmmaker is not making an experience for you to walk into. They're making a film. And this is how it is, and this is how it's presented. And if they do it right, you will feel like you're in it anyway. You'll
Right.
connect with the characters and all that. And then it still feels like you're there. Just
If
not
the
visually.
story's done right, it's going to make you feel like you're in that scene.
Right.
I think 3D, I would like to see like a 3D movie to where it's more, I guess, virtual, the VR style,
I think
to where
that's
you can
what they're
like,
trying to head towards.
with the new PlayStation VR headset. Like, I like the way they're going with that game, with doing
Yes.
games to where you can look around, but that would be great for a movie, but at the same time, that'd be terrible because you're looking around everywhere
Right.
else.
You'd be looking left and something
Someone's
over here
going-
would be important to
Exactly.
the right, and you're not looking at it. And I think that's the only thing that's
But
why I think
that's
that
why they're
depth,
that's where they're having to go for the 3D to keep it alive.
I think that will be the next step. But I
They-
do believe that depth of picture that you get, like from the Avatar and stuff,
Right.
where you have such depth, you don't need to look left. You would like to look left and right,
Right.
but you don't need to because you see what's coming up and you know that's where you're going to go. And the only reason you want to look left or right is to see what's coming at you.
Exactly.
And a lot of people will be doing that, but it's not helpful, and it's not and director will find a way to direct you towards what they want you to see.
Right. To keep 3D alive, I think they're having to go to this whole VR, which is, back in the day they did the whole VR thing to where, I don't know if you remember, or some people might not remember out there, where you had to be enclosed in like this little case, and you had
Yes.
like a whole headset to where you can walk around and all, but they had it to where you couldn't go anywhere.
You know,
Because
Disney
Of
kind of did this too, sort of on a smaller scale, where it wasn't an individual person in that VR thing. I remember going to Epcot in the mid 80s. This was, it hadn't been open for too terribly long. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that there is now. But in the Parade of Countries back on the back part, one of the countries is Canada, and they had this film that you would go into. And everyone went in and they stood in this room, and it was a round circle, and the screen was 360 degrees all the way around the room.
Oh, nice.
And you could stand there and look all the way around. It was a scene of the forest, and it was a continuous shot all the way around. I remember being a teenager and looking for where's the camera stop, where's the next one start. You didn't see it. It was seamless. It was gorgeous, and the big snow up in the mountains, and I remember looking all the way around the room. My parents were fixed on one thing, because they were old school, and that's how they watched this stuff. And I was just taking it all in and thinking, this is amazing.
I don't know who all went out there to go actually see the Marvel experience when it was going around town. I actually got a chance to go see it, and it kind of had something like that. And they said these big colossal domes, but they weren't really colossal. They were just big domes to fit like 100 people maybe.
Okay.
And the actual only big colossal dome was where they had mainly everything in there, all these little things you could do, mazes to go through, games you could play to act like you're Iron Man and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They had this whole thing to where it started off with a story through the whole thing, and then once you got through that big thing, you had to collect all these little things to get through to the next area, and then once you got to the next area was a big 3D dome. You put the glasses on, and the only thing that sucked about it is you had to look straight up and around because it was on top of you. But the whole thing was 3D. Kevin Smith, he voiced Matic, and I remember that's when I took my glasses off and tried to take a picture of the 3D through my glasses. Didn't work very well, but I tried just to show that that part of the experience was in 3D. And it was probably the coolest experience of 3D that I've ever had because I had to look all the way around to get the whole experience of it. After having a 3D TV, the experience is so much better than at a theater. Yes, the screen is much bigger, but it's more personable. It seems like it's more of the watching the IMAX 3D at home because it just seems more clear, more kind of like to where, okay, this is just for you. You've got the whole setting of how you want it set. You don't have to worry about a preset setting of lights.
Right.
Like if you want it completely dark, it's completely dark. The only light coming through is that TV. Not a little bit of ambiance, to give mood and whatever. And it just seems more, you can tailor it to your personal experience, how it's going to give you the best effect.
I like that.
And that's what I like most about 3Ds and 3D TV. Now, with 3D movies, actually, I like going to 3D movies more because me being a movie buff, I like being more of an experience of a movie. You said back in the day, I could always picture myself in those movies, but now it's like I'm actually I could walk into that movie.
Right.
Kind of like it makes you feel like Last Action Hero without it being Last Action Hero.
Exactly.
With that golden ticket or the glasses.
The reason I like to choose the 3D over the regular is if they filmed it in 3D, they did it for a reason, and I feel like if that's the final finished product, that's the one I want to see. Because otherwise, they've taken something out.
Kind of like with the Days of Future Past and Apocalypse with Quicksilver.
Yes.
I saw those in 3D. Well, I didn't see the new one in 3D, but I saw the first one when he was first introduced, the Days of Future Past, and he was in 3D doing that. That was like the best part of it. And when I saw it out of 3D, or when I saw Apocalypse and he did his thing when it wasn't in 3D, I was like, it's missing something.
Mm-hmm.
It just puts Quicksilver in that much more of a reference to where you can see what he sees and how he sees it. Because like with the water drop, it looks like you can actually see the lights going around it instead of it just coming down the screen.
Yeah, I agree.
And so a lot of that is computer generated because today's they use a lot of green screen.
Right.
But it's still the technology has gotten so big and so awesome that you can do that with a movie. I enjoy that part of it. It's more of an experience. My son's first 3D experience was a 4D experience at Hershey Park.
Wow.
And that was actually my first 4D experience. I didn't even know, I knew what a 4D was where it interacted with you,
Right.
but I didn't know what it was. So there was a couple of times where things popped out from under the seat.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
what the
Yeah.
is at my feet? But the funniest part was when the spider came down, they had something run across our heads,
Wow.
and my son just froze. Like, there's a spider on me.
There's,
There's a spider on me. There's a spider on me.
There's a couple of theaters at Disney World that show, don't know if they're calling it 4D or what, but it's really fun. And it's kind of a throwback to something they tried in the 70s with Smell-O-Vision.
Oh, I remember that.
And like there's one show, it's based on Fantasia sort of.
Oh, that would be
And,
crazy in 3D.
It's in 3D. You get glasses, and not only that, but like there's parts where they have smells come out. There's these vents in front of you, and like there's one part where Donald is doing something he's not supposed to, and something blows up in his face, and there's this big puff of air that hits you, so you feel that. There's a part where he's going along and there's a cherry pie floating in front of him, and you can smell a hot cherry pie. It's amazing. It's really cool, interactive stuff.
It was kind of like that, but it wasn't that intense. It was kind of like little cheesy things
Right.
that we like cloth coming down
Right.
and just going over our heads.
This was really amazing. If you ever go, you got to go see that. There's another one. It's a Muppet movie where Kermit's actually walking you through this Muppet studio, and I mean, it's really neat.
I
They're
miss the Muppets.
really good.
I liked how they were doing it.
They
on
canceled their new show. Yeah.
I liked how they were doing that. I actually liked that Kermit and Piggy broke up too. You know, something different, something
Been a
new, a
long
new way to
time
look
coming.
at it. Well, yeah, I mean, so much pig.
Yeah. It's
You
just,
can only eat bacon so much a day.
no, that's not true. I could eat it all day. I might die, but I would eat it all day. It's just.
See,
it's
he's
that-
a frog. He cares about that. He cares about dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I remember that from the first Muppet movie. Yeah.
I also know that Disneyland or Disney World or whatever over in California, they had the SpongeBob for a while, and I think now they've got the Simpsons, or is it or Universal Studios that's got the Simpsons.
I think it may be Universal.
And I know that Universal is doing stuff like Back to the Future. Well, they did Back to the Future.
Right.
They're using 3D technology then too. So my thoughts on 3D movies is don't knock it before you experience it, because you don't know what kind of experience you're going to get with it. You don't know what you're going to miss. You don't know what you're going to gain. You don't know what kind of thoughts the director had when filming it in 3D just for 3D, or if he had thoughts for 2D and 3D, or what you're going to miss, what you're going to get from this experience. All I'm asking is just try to enjoy a different aspect of a movie, because from what they've been, 3D movies, they've come a long way. And it's a very great way to experience it. Just don't sit close. Kind of sit far back in the movie theater.
I think that to judge a film, oh, they're doing that in 3D. If you do that before you see it, I think you should see it, and then you can have your say. But don't knock it before it's you've experienced it. Because that's really what the 3D is supposed to be, is an experience. It's supposed to add to. And a lot of them are filmed and made that way so that it actually has a better feel. Really and truly, if you think about it, these movies are made to be seen in the theater. They're not made to be seen at home. They're made for the theater. And if you don't view it in that format, you're kind of missing part of the experience. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Picture Podcast. Y'all can check us out anytime at www.wholepicturemovies.com or our Facebook at facebook.com/wholepicturemovies. If you have any questions or anything, you can email us at wholepicturemovies@gmail.com. I hope y'all have enjoyed.